Hi, I'm Michael Casey and I'm here today with Dinan from PTX.
Thank you, Mike.
Tell us about yourself, mate.
Well, I've been with PTX Trimble for 7 or 8 years, and over the last few years, I've been focused on the OutRun autonomy platform. I've had that privilege of bringing autonomy at a global level. So it's been great working with progressive dealers like yourself, Advantage New South Wales, and also working with fantastic growers worldwide.
Yeah, fantastic. What a time it is to be in the industry too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What a great chance to bring new technologies to market when we feel like we've encompassed so much over the years, and now it's almost like we get a fresh start with something new to play with old and familiar technologies, and we're bringing them into new solutions.
That's right. I think we've been talking about autonomy for so many years. There have been many stops and starts in autonomous solutions.
They have.
And I think one of the biggest hurdles that we need to get to the wider audience is that autonomy is here now as a useful product for farmers.
Yeah, there's so many different opinions on how it should be delivered, how this innovation is going to flow through. I mean, if we look at some of the traditional legacy products of auto steer and product control, they were all essentially the same. They performed better, if higher quality components were used and the engineering skill sets that went into some of those. But effectively, they were along the same lines as a very similar type of product. Whereas autonomy, there's a lot of different approaches to market. Should it be a large number of smaller machines? Do we need higher horsepower and higher capacity and efficiency? Some designs are cabless, and others, allow the operator to jump in and take over. So what's your take on that piece, and what's your approach to market?
Well, I think what we'll find is that we're in the midst of an inflection point where autonomy comes to farmers and starts changing those underlying practices that autonomy is going to drive. You mentioned being progressive in terms of understanding what your return on investment might be, how you'd really drive autonomy to get agronomic benefits, operational efficiencies. I think we're just in that infancy of that, and that's what's really exciting right now. When I look at your dealership or the Vantage New South Wales dealership and your team and the work you're doing with farm readiness and operator readiness for autonomy, I think those are the types of steps we need to model around the world to make it a successful endeavor.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of aspects that at the top level you don't really understand until you dig deeper how many pieces are involved in bringing this together. It's not just about engineering a solution. I think the capability is there and has been for some time. It's how we bring that solution together, integrate it onto somebody's farm and operation, and really understand how that return on investment is going to drive productivity. And I mean, getting back to that return on investment piece, the piece about OutRun that I really am excited about is the ability to retrofit. That's been such a huge part of our business over the last 20 years. We're not asking people to start again. It's just a continuation of the journey with a higher degree of autonomy on farm.
Yeah. I think time has shown that that's the best way to get new technology into farm operations, because it just allows for more agility on the manufacturer side of things, on the dealer side of things, and on the farmer side of things. Not to mention the fact that we're decoupling the need to buy a new tractor for autonomy.
We're working through in our business in understanding what internal processes are going to add more value and even speed up the accuracy of our delivery of the technology to market. It's not just about the platforms we're installing onto, but it's understanding that farm readiness, the compatibility, and the safety components that are ultimately all going to fit together. And if we find a way to bring those together in harmony, I think we're going to deliver a safer, more reliable solution with higher uptime, higher efficiency, because we're really taking everything into consideration.
Absolutely. And with all of that due diligence undertaken, it's also producing quite a high impact on farm operations. So on the customers that have been using OutRun in North America so far, we've seen operations be enabled to do much more than they've ever been able to do so. So a 2-person operation working as efficiently as a 3-person operation. The flexibility in terms of time and ability to get things done on time at a farm, which of course drives agronomic results and operational efficiency.
I think we're really excited about the different applications we're going to lean into in time. And some of the questions this week from our technicians were, why did we start with such a complex solution at a time in harvest where there's more people on farm, there's more safety considerations, a range of machines working in all different directions. Why did we start there?
It's a very good question. There's a lot of complexity in the answer to that. One take is that we knew that would be the hardest problem to solve. And so if we could start working in that problem, solve it, we would be well set for other challenges as well. But I also want to say that we 2 or 3 years ago, we made a hypothesis and we didn't quite know where it would resonate. And we needed to be able to shift quickly to different tasks and different platforms. So from the very beginning, we built it in such a way that we had an agile approach to be able to switch from one machine platform to the other, one task to the other. So by starting at the most challenging and building it in a flexible way, we're now set up to quickly pivot to different tractor platforms, different sprayer platforms, different tasks, be able to adjust to different soil conditions. So I think that's where the real success comes from. Working with a team like yourself, I think you guys are the perfect next step for us because you can translate what that product is to real on-farm results for us.
Yeah, well, our history of working with a range of machines, it's not just on us. I mean, that's been enabled in the past with the traditional Trimble ag business bringing us a retrofit solution for a range of machines and applications. And I think AGCO's been really smart about the acquisitions that it's made, and we're really excited about how the forming of the PTX business group is really going to provide such an advantage and some real synergies in technology, hardware, and a multi-brand approach. I think PTX Trimble and PTX Precision Planting have both been after that multi-brand approach, and
Sure.
The precision planting agronomic approach really holds a lot of value as well. With JCA Technologies coming into the mix, and these are probably some brands that people are more familiar with than others. Some they've used on farm, and others they're yet to try. And I think we're at an amazing time where bringing all of those together is such a powerful thing, and is going to serve us so well into the future as to how we can walk onto a farm with confidence and know that whatever we're being asked of, there's a very high chance we're going to be able to deliver that effectively.
Absolutely. In one of our conversations previously, you talked about an end-to-end solution, and that's really what it is that AGCO has enabled. So with AGCO's machinery, with PTX technology, whether on the PTX Trimble side or the precision planting side, to then working with dealers like Vantage New South Wales, what we can do is provide a fantastic end-to-end comprehensive solution. And we've seen it's a fairly new approach for AGCO in terms of the entities coming together. I think we're there now, and we're starting to see the benefit of that.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting.
When it comes to level 4 technology or level 4 autonomy around the world, I've been very impressed by what I've seen in Australia. So our experience so far has been in North America primarily, with interactions in South America, a little bit in Europe, and Australia. And I think clearly each area, each environment has a slight advantage or disadvantage in terms of what their agronomic practices are like, what their demographic shifts are like in terms of where their labor needs are, things like that. But I think what I'm seeing in Australia is a real on-the-ground enthusiasm to adopt autonomy. I'm not quite sure what's driving that. We've seen that over the last 4 or 5 years. I wonder if you could comment on that from that perspective.
Well, yeah, look, we'd love you to spend more time here to understand the enthusiasm that we've received over the last few years. The drive has really been from large scale, large area, repetitive tasks. We have farmers trying to really focus on managing their operations now, and sometimes time in the cab is just taking them away from better time spent working on their businesses.
Sure.
So I think we have a unique position in Australia where we're very conscious of controlled traffic and minimum till and moisture retention, and reducing ground compaction and soil compaction, and so the technology really lends itself to the size of equipment and the field layouts.
Sure.
That we have in Australia. It's a huge opportunity, and I think the hardware is there, and in partnership with companies like PTX, I think we're going to be one of the parts of the world that can really accelerate into autonomy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. We're excited about that. We're seeing enthusiasm in other regions, but I think from a structural point of view, Australia is slightly ahead of other places around the world. Just as an example, in North America, we're seeing demand, but it's coming from one or two dealers or growers that have a high need in labor, and therefore they're trying to fill that problem with a solution. But I think at some point, what I'm excited about this trip down to Australia and the time I've spent here is we've learned a new model that we can take worldwide in terms of farm readiness, the approach to prepare farmers for the product, for OutRun.
That's a very important piece that you just mentioned.
That's right. Which one?
The readiness.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the question we've had is when people come to us, they're asking us, is the technology ready?
Sure.
And we're kind of reciprocating with, well, are you ready? Is your farm ready? Are your staff ready?
That's right. We at AGCO, we have something called the Fundamental Four, and two of those, the first two, are prepare the grower for the product and prepare the product for the grower. And so it's a fundamental recognition of what you just said, that you need both sides of that. You can't simply have a good product. You need to also make sure that the operation is ready for it, expecting it, understands the nuances of using the system, so that overall experience is really good.
Yeah, and that's important too, because something that we've always stressed as a dealer is don't innovate for the sake of innovating. We really need real solutions that are going to help our growers and not make more noise on the farm. And I mean, we are exploring a range of different autonomous solutions for different applications, and we feel as though it's our job now. We're not the R&D department. But we are a very important layer in that validation step.
Sure.
We want to ensure that the technologies that we're delivering to farm are providing the results. And so we're making investments in time and materials, machinery, equipment on the application side, and really trying to understand the nuances as you've touched on, and really understand some of those idiosyncrasies and how we can either feed back to the manufacturers on how they can improve user interface or just that consumer readiness. And because ultimately we'll deliver a better solution. Our staff will be more confident, not even from a sales perspective, to propose the idea of a particular technology, but then the deployment of it at the technician level, the willingness to pick up the phone and support it and not sigh, not another call, another problem. It's understanding, well, we understand it so well that there's always a way around it.
Sure.
And in our business, the phone rings when people have problems. We know that we wake up every day and someone's going to ring us with a problem. That's the nature of the support business that we're in. And so it's critical that there's not even just key people in a business that understand these sorts of technologies, but it's spread out across our team. And there'll always be levels of experience, and we get that. But for us, it's really forming a culture of confidence in the products that we're going to take to market.
Yeah. In our thinking and in our planning, we have what we call a customer journey. When we think about operators learning how autonomy, for example, can impact their operations, mapping their paddocks, taking those steps incrementally to get to the point where they're ready for the product. We also have a layer behind that, which is a dealer journey. We know that not all dealers are in the same place. Some are just learning, some are just testing, some are now getting to that point where they're a mature entity with respect to autonomy. And that's really been fantastic to see with your organization, because by moving customers along that journey, by understanding that your internal stakeholders, your techs, your staff also need that same education, you're really showing a maturity in that autonomy journey and really showing yourself to be a leader in that space. So, it's been fantastic to see, and we're excited about what we can do in Australia together.
Yeah, thank you. Because we're really excited about working in partnership with you and the PTX team as well. And I think we're really well positioned to take those next steps now. And I think we've created a bit of a buzz this week being out in the paddock. And word spreads pretty quickly around here. And we're just excited about an upcoming harvest and some more time to play and not necessarily go out and sell product just yet. But we're so close.
Okay. What do you think that path will look like, both from a task point of view and a cropping practice point of view as well?
Well, we touched on it earlier. Starting with harvest is really going to help us understand how to bring out the best in the solution and make it work to its potential. When we move into tillage and spraying and spreading applications, I don't think it's the technology that'll hold us back. It'll be the supporting mechanisms of reloading.
Sure.
Like especially spraying and spreading. We've seen a lot of autonomous solutions in the spraying, in spraying activities in Australia because of especially the optical spraying requirements that we see over long fallows and summer fallows. And I think that, look, spraying is a good place to start with, and we'll move into that technology soon. Tillage is going to add a lot of value. Just in terms of not so much tillage for weed control and those sorts of things, but we do need to break the cycle sometimes. We are Kelly chaining and controlling stubble residue and different management practices there. And we're excited about even involving agronomic businesses and consultants in understanding how some of these technologies are going to apply to ease the load on their growers.
Okay.
So I don't think it's going to be a difficult product to sell. It's not the sort of product we see there's no barrier to the sales process apart from finding the right fit and the right solution.
Sure.
That's going to be the most important step.
Okay. Now, do you think it could have an application in things like specialty crops in Australia or cotton?
I'm still trying to get my head around some of the patterns and applications in irrigation and row crop. With the right engineering, I don't see why not.
Sure.
In a broadacre environment, it makes more sense because we've just got so much more room to move.
Okay.
And that's why we are investing in the machinery itself so that we can really understand what those idiosyncrasies are.
Okay.
We can feed them back to the engineers to help us understand what do we do in a tight area here, like a point row. We've got to start thinking outside the box on how that autonomous machine is going to be taught to deal with those sorts of scenarios. And,
sure.
And I think too, watching some people and then their expectation, their perception of how the machine is operating in the field, asking questions, why doesn't it just do this? And why doesn't it do it that way? And I guess in a traditional sense, it makes sense. But when you really start to dive deeper into how an autonomous machine is going to operate, it really does. I'm going to talk about it in the first person here, but it really does need to be able to make its own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I can see where it's headed, and I see in time that's going to get better and better. Mm-hmm. And I think the exciting part too is the hardware we have now, we're going to be able to improve on over time, over the seasons from an initial investment.
Absolutely.
And I think those software and UI interface improvements are really going to add so much value without starting again.
Sure. Sure. What are your thoughts, Mick, on global autonomy? I know that you're much more focused in Australia, but what's your perspective on what you see globally?
That's a big question. My mind jumps to so many different applications because we're sort of playing with 4 different products in our portfolio in that level 4 engagement, and they're all very different. They're all such different concepts. Some are unmanned. Some involve high horsepower tractors, low horsepower tractors, the smaller machines for smaller tasks. And some of them involve a BYO. So you've already got the machine on farm, and having the ability to come in with a solution and add value is great. And others are, well, we might need to start from a new tractor and a new specification and start again. And so there's been such a willingness from our growers in Australia, and I'd like to see that as a global perception and a confidence that the technology is going to aid and assist the operation, and not become another product that hasn't delivered.
Sure.
And I think there will be products that are out there that people are dissatisfied with. And we hope that we're given the opportunity to demonstrate what we have. And I think the power of that on a global level is, well, if it's working for them over in Australia, why can't we, even with small adaptations, or none at all, apply that to our operation?
What do you think, when we think about the development of OutRun with the PTX team, what do you think we should keep in mind as we continue to advance OutRun?
I mentioned it earlier. I think the don't innovate for the sake of innovation. But I think the most critical aspect is that aftermarket approach. I think the success we've had, we had an AGCO dealership in our family group a long time ago, and that we started maybe 8 years ago. And the value of having a separate technology business, it really stood out regionally, and we were sought after for that expertise.
Sure.
And that's not to take anything away from machinery dealers, but I think the thing to note here is that we can't be everything to everyone. And if I went out tomorrow and sold tractors, would I do as good a job as I was doing in tech that I am today? And I think that the notes that I take away from that are sometimes we just need to focus on what we're good at. And I think if we can add another layer of support to an iron dealer, it allows them to focus on what they understand.
Sure. And
what they need to manage in their business, and they can support their growers to the best of their ability. And we just come in as another layer on that and drive that next step and pull more efficiency and production out of those machines that they're selling and supporting.
Okay, great. So just focus on that aftermarket approach, work in such a way that dealers can help translate the product into a solution for farmers.
Yeah, and I think if that aftermarket piece is neglected, we run the risk of restricting how autonomy can really spread across the farm.
Sure.
It's great to be able to automate an operation, but quite frustrating if we can't also automate another piece that brings it all together. So I think the aftermarket piece is really going to help us really encapsulate an operation and drive the true sense of autonomy.
One of the things that I want to take back to North America when I go back is the farm readiness piece.
Yes.
Why is that so important to Vantage New South Wales?
Look, for us, it was a really critical piece. We've been working with growers with data management for many years and helping them sort of lay the foundation of the pathway to autonomy. But the safety piece is everything. I mean, we value our farmers and their health and safety, and we also value, obviously, we want to ensure that our technicians are safe and aware of their surroundings and what they're working with. You can become complacent working with the same technologies and machines over and over again. And look, agriculture can be a very dangerous environment to work in.
Yeah.
Some of the early engagements we've had with regulators in Australia, their interest is in autonomy their enthusiasm is so great because they see it as an opportunity to take the operator away from the machine. I think some of our early discussions, our initial approach was, this can be a dangerous playground,
For sure.
if not managed effectively, because we're working with the machines and around them. Whenever we're engaged, we're working on the machine, and I think their approach is, well, this is great because we don't have to be near the machine.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two sides of the coin there to look at in terms of the safety piece. I think we've really driven in Australia our approach to that safety piece because it's always been the technology itself. I think we've got our head around that. That's going to develop over time.
Sure.
But if we don't start advancing our approach to the farm readiness and enabling growers to really understand how they need to adopt this technology safely, I think it's just going to slow. It's going to slow the uptake. We do actually have an expert in our business who focuses on that. So I'd like to introduce CJ.
Sure.
Would you like to join us on the lounge, CJ?
Hi, guys.
Hi, CJ.
Hi.
So farm readiness, is that the topic of the conversation? Yeah. So we had a really interesting conversation, especially when we were looking at socializing the level 4 products within the business. And one thing that stood out for us was that we knew growers did what they did really, really well, and they can adapt and they pivot and they do so much to get the job done each day. Producing a level 4 product within their environment, we knew was going to create other noise that may not have been seen before. We knew that we had a responsibility, like we have for like Mick was saying earlier, for a couple of decades to support that piece. There's been iterations of that support, but we knew that this was a bigger piece. Why? Because it was first of its time. We're dealing with vehicle hierarchy like never before, because we're seeing vehicles working without a driver, growers who are bringing in labour that aren't going to be necessarily familiar with farming, let alone farming an autonomous solution with an autonomous solution. We knew that if they were to invest in something like this, we didn't want to then have bigger problems that were going to offset the product itself. We also understood too that we are the best people in the business to do this. No one else in industry is going to understand it like we do. So we thought, well, we'll take the challenge up. My background in governance and policy writing, legislation understanding really was a beautiful synergy in that. So we've actually created, alongside my sort of subject matter expertise with the guys in the business, especially Mick, an opportunity to be able to create a framework that can be copy and pasted to any grower, any operation. It is a bespoke solution. It is a bespoke product with this farm readiness. So we understand what sort of operation through that framework, whether it's small, large scale, whether it's father, son, mother, daughter, whatever a type of operation that looks like. And then as it expands, as we know in farming, it can go from harvest of having 50 people on farm back down and shrinking again to only having 5.
Sure.
And so we knew that if they needed to get those growers, that we knew that if those growers were going to be investing, we needed to invest in them and future-proof them alongside the product. We know that that's going to be a game changer. We know that that's a part of the farmer journey that PTX has also talked about. We've been farmer first inside of our business for a long time. The Caseys have been farmer first. They've picked up the phone at all hours of the night. They've been farmer first in their approach. So it wasn't a big step inside the business. The big step for us that we've seen is that no one else has really understood it when we're in conversations around autonomy. So we've actually been bringing people along authentically, but also osmotically on the journey, when we know that there is a responsibility, because in Australia, it's are not negotiable. It's unlawful to be doing things and producing opportunities within product portfolios and just landing it on farm and then exposing them to various other risks, right? We know agriculture kills people. We know that. So if we know that, what the hell are we doing about it? And if we are, and we need to give a damn, and we do give a damn. So we thought, let's produce something that's going to be able to be translated, bring people on a journey, but also it allows us to protect the business too. My biggest concern when Mick was talking about this intelligent product and doing exactly what we've been seeing this week out on farm, I said to him, and it's always been with the grower in mind and trying to future-proof this to make sure that if we are bringing a brand, we're not wrecking the brand because it hasn't been something that's been thought about, which is why the validation piece is so important for us. But the second piece to this is that I want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're not exposing the business that we care so much about and so many people rely upon to get their farms going and to keep their farms going.
Sure.
So we didn't want to break at our end either and have bigger problems and white noise within our business. So the framework for us also gives us an opportunity to vet our growers. You're not ready yet. We're not going to sell you this solution. It's a no. Mm-hmm. And that's weird for a lot of people to get because what do you mean? What do you mean? Aren't you here to sell a product? Like, what do you mean you're selling something and you're telling me no? Yeah, we're telling you no. You're not ready yet, but we'll help you be ready. And that's the piece that I think a lot of people have understood is different about us, that we will pick up the phone, we will support, we won't sell something that we don't support or understand. And this is no different to that. We're continuing the formula, we're extending it, but we're actually creating a really robust framework. And sometimes it will be a no for people. Why? Because it's a bigger risk for us, but it's a bigger risk for them. And we're not going to engage on that. So we knew if there was a gap in that selling piece or that farmer experiencing a solution that was going to really keep them going and potentially keep them going for another generation because of lack of labour or because of whatever pain they're feeling, we knew we had a responsibility to try and take them on a journey. Now, if they don't want to come on the journey, that's cool. That's cool. But we're over here doing what we understand to be the best. And we know that there's going to be iteration to this framework as legislation changes, as laws around how farming indeed works in our country, absolutely. But we also know that this has got global scalability. We understand that our growers in Australia have the same pain with other growers around the world.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do you think those key steps are in that farm readiness?
In the farm readiness?
Yeah.
It's a conversation first and foremost about the attitude around autonomy. What are they expecting to achieve by introducing an autonomous product into their operations? And if we can see that it's a simple, okay, well, I just wanted to address my really significant labour shortage that I can't get because of my location, because the visas around, backpackers being able to come is a really big issue. Then we go, okay, so then if that's a labour problem for you, how are we then having the conversation with them around setting up their farm to deliver that? Now, I know if they're lean in that staffing space, they're running between different operations. And I mean, I was talking to a grower yesterday, and he was saying at any one time I could be irrigating, planting, and harvesting.
Sure.
So that's a perfect example of where autonomy would really fit. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I've said, okay, so how would you see that being ready on your farm? Not only just geomapping and everything else, but it's like, how are you then going to translate the safety procedures, the vehicle hierarchy and traffic management on your farm? Because while that autonomous solution is actually working, you've got other people who are actually working in other machines. Sure. So it's that conversation first, and it's asking the grower to think about it. Because we honestly we're not here to tell them how to crack their eggs. It's not what we want to do, but we do have to give them a framework to crack against. And once they start cracking against it and they start to understand it, I believe also too, they'll value the product so much more, because they'll probably able to pull out a lot more value than they first initially thought, which then adds more value not only to the sale, but the support and the service ongoing. So they know when the guys are coming out to update firmware, whatever it looks like, that is a really valuable piece of whether it be machinery or or whatever on farm.
Sure.
So that's probably the first step, is that value conversion and understanding the pain. The second piece is their attitudes and values towards safety. I know if they don't already have a level of safety, hazard identification type sort of atmosphere on their farm, we're going to be on a pretty decent journey before we get them into a space where we'd be satisfied to get them to the end of the framework. I know with certain operations that they have to make do and they have to get it done. So it's not like they're neglectful. It's just because they're trying as hard as they can to do each day. We're not here to make it harder. We're here to be working alongside them and rubbing up against them and saying, but we've actually got something that can help you with that. Do you want us to just deploy that and get it done so we can satisfy that piece of the framework around that safety? We're not here to be the regulator. That's not what we are. We're here to work with the regulator so that stays sensible in our industry, but also in our country. And I know that and working in various different states and territories in Australia, it's like Europe. They're like different countries and they have different levels of understanding and expectations of safety and implications of what that is. Reportability is a big thing. And there's different levels of reportability and what would be okay for one state versus another. Now, we're Australia-wide with some of this level 4 autonomy that we're looking at. So I'm here to over-engineer that. And it's very typical of the way that Mick and I talk. We over-engineer everything. So we know that if someone tries to break it, it's very hard to do. So the Western Australian expectations versus a Queensland versus a New South Wales expectations are different. We're here to actually cover all of that, and which is what we've done with our farm readiness. So bringing those growers on for the journey is one thing, but also two, we talk about our external customers and our internal customers in the business. Our internal customers also have to go on the same journey. They have to have the same dialogue. They have to have the same terminology because we've got to be able to translate it. For a lot of growers, this is going to be brand spanking new. We had a grower yesterday say, I didn't think I was going to see this in my lifetime. So some of these guys aren't ready, but they've got an appetite. So we're wanting to see those early adopters come in with an understanding, but also not risk anything into their business.
Of course. Your little story reminded me of something in Kansas. We were working with a farmer named Mark Myers. He and his dad had a conversation in the late 80s, and his dad had said, I wonder if in my lifetime I would ever see an autonomous tractor. Yeah. And so Mark, whose dad has since passed, wanted to engage with OutRun, bring an autonomous tractor to his farm, just so that he could see that in fruition on that farm. It's a legacy piece. Yeah, absolutely. Right? So it's kind of neat to see that.
Yeah.
And AGCO has a storytelling part which is on generations. And when we have a Zoom call or a Teams call, we have a background with little boots, so it starts with a small set of boots, a medium set of boots, and a bigger set of boots. And it's to signify the generations there in many growers have on their fields and farms.
Yeah. And look, we're investing in next gen with this as well. Yeah. And we've got a lot of not only appetite within the business when we're bringing on our younger techs, who we're seeing come and be so excited about this.
Absolutely.
I mean, the boys watching them yesterday, weren't they?
That was great to see.
They're all just sitting there on the edge and on the seat. And I was like, well, they're not like this when I'm, giving my PowerPoint presentations in the boardroom. It's not as exciting. But I knew that they were so happy to see what they saw, see it, literally working as they did. And I know that those conversations that they're going to have, at least telling 5 people in the next 24 hours, is going to be extremely powerful. We've seen that even with the grower that hosted us yesterday on his farm. He's blasted that out on social media. He never engages social media. Sure. So he's got excited, even though he knows it's something that he won't see on his farm for a while. And it's the conversation and the excitement. But we also know that there's the seriousness of it too, and we haven't neglected that piece. We haven't got carried away, I guess, is probably, would that be right, Mick?
Definitely.
We haven't been romanticising it, but we've been still a bit excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You were talking about it earlier, and I think that cautious approach to selling is somewhat, what do you mean? You don't like, take my money. I want this. That's very difficult for some people to understand from a commercial business or somebody who is perceived as a salesperson. We've always said we're in business, so there's a sales approach to how we operate, and we need to survive like everybody else. But we've always said we're consultants. We like to give advice.
Sure.
We prefer to look at ourselves that way, rather than selling this equipment. And I think now that we're moving into autonomy, it's never been more important for us to really express that and for people to understand we're not just here to sell a product. If somebody's willing to pay for it, we really need to make sure that you're going to get the benefit from it first.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what I've been impressed with your team is that although it's quite easy to really move forward with autonomy, get carried away with the excitement, you're holding back. You're making sure that readiness piece is there, cautious in your approach, making sure that there's discipline in that prospecting process and training process. I really think it's a model that we've started globally, but we can learn a lot from what your team has done, and I intend to do that. Yeah.
There's a few ways to look at that too. And when we talk about holding back and being cautious, that's probably what it feels like externally as well. But internally, we're actually accelerating at a rapid pace, so that by the time we're ready to deliver, we can then deliver consistently, repetitively, and at scale. So there's the internal and the external aspects.
Absolutely.
I think that to me has been a really important part. Internally, we've been discussing that scalability piece, because we know once we've put our name to validating it and we can say we can translate this really well and we can adopt it into various different levels of farming. We're opening up, our portfolio of growers around Australia for this. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they come knocking on the door to say, would you please? And that scalability for us, we're like, right, before we do that, we've got to turn up to our internal processes first.
And I think some of the commentary, even from my internal guys, sitting in the car, driving around the countryside, and just general discussion, and some of a comment that was made to me last week was, gee, Mick, like, I feel like we're winding up a rubber band. Like, this is really just building up and building up and building up. And I said, yeah, and this is why we really talk about not leaving anybody behind, because we do have a lot of traditional customers out there. And this isn't a transition for us into a new portfolio where we leave those customers behind and focus on the new portfolio. It's about still maintaining our processes of support and that structure around the service piece to not only maintain it, but continue to perform at a higher than ever level and expand in the next piece as well. And then it all fits together and you're on the same farms doing both.
Sure.
We're there delivering an autonomous solution, but while we're here, let's clean up your data on your displays and bring your legacy Trimble portfolio into the new era to help us gain more satisfaction from that autonomous piece. So it does all fit together in our mind. And we're not racing ahead to leave anyone behind.
It's been really refreshing to see that approach. So good on you guys.
So tell me, have you enjoyed your Australian trip, being your first time in Australia?
Absolutely. I spent a day or two in Sydney and then made my way to Canada, and it's been great, meeting your team and really coming away with friends as well. Enjoyed mixing with the team and getting OutRun working on the local farm. I think everyone was excited. Coming away refreshed, invigorated with the potential for autonomy in Australia. Certainly we know there's competition, but we encourage competition. I think it raises the level of everyone's performance when we have competitors in the space. It drives more training, more education. But just coming back to your question, Australia's been great. Look forward to coming back.
Good.
Yeah.
It's been great having you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks for coming, and
Absolutely.
It's been great to build on our relationship.
Absolutely, Mick. We're excited about that.
Thanks.
Thank you, CJ.
You're welcome.